Let's talk skin tones and getting them right every single time. Now, regardless of what camera system you're using, be it Panasonic, Sony, Canon, Fuji, there are a couple of simple techniques you can use to make sure that you get perfect skin tones. It all starts with getting good exposure. Skin, regardless of the ethnicity, be it European, African or Asian, tops out at an IRE or exposure level of 70. If you expose too high above this level, your skin is going to be blown out and you're going to struggle to recover the highlights. If you expose too far below this level, you're going to have to bring your skin up in post, and this is going to introduce artifact and a lot of grain into your image. To make sure that you're exposing at that 70 IRE level, what you want to do is go into your camera system and activate the zebras. Once this is activated, the brightest areas in your image might appear with black and white stripes going across them. That is an indicator that your image is overexposed to the level that your zebras are set at. Now what you want to do is determine at what exposure level those zebra stripes appear across your image. You're going to go back into your camera menu system and set your zebra levels to appear at an exposure of 70. With these settings enabled, you're now equipped to expose your skin perfectly. In your frame, you're going to locate your talent and expose the image to the point where those zebras start appearing on their skin. What you're going to do next is dial your exposure down one notch, either by adjusting your aperture or your ISO. And that's going to give you perfect exposure of the skin tones. Be aware that this might slightly blow out your highlights or overexpose your shadows, and take into consideration whether those elements are more important than your skin tones in the shot that you're busy working with. Now that you've exposed for perfect skin tones, we can go into our editing software and I'll show you a couple of tweaks to make sure that you got it right on the money. Alright, so here we are in Premiere. We are in the color tab. We've imported the clip that we want to work on the skin tones. And the first thing we're going to do is select our clip, go to the effect controls, we're going to go to opacity, and we're going to draw a mask around the area that we want to work on in terms of skin tones. Now I'm making sure to avoid the lips, as the lips tend to have more red in them, and what happens is it sort of dilutes our sample of skin tone that we're wanting to work with. So now that you've got this mapped out, you can see we're only taking a look at this area. We're going to go into our Lumetri Scopes. The scope on the right hand side is the waveform luma. Now that's showing us the exposure levels of our image and only of the specific area that we've marked out. As you can see, we're sitting just under that 70 IRE value, which is exactly what we were aiming for when we were exposing our image. If you're above or below this line, what you can do is you can go into your basic corrections tab under Lumetri color, and you can make some adjustments to your exposure. The graph on your left hand side over here is your vector scope. So what this is doing is you can see it's representing the different colors in the image, and then the closer that this white splotch is to the edges shows the amount of saturation of that specific color. Now what you need to pay attention to here is this line over here, and that is called your skin tone line. You're trying to get this little splotch to line up as closely to this line over here as possible in order to ensure you've got the best possible skin tones. As you can see, we're leaning a little bit onto the red. So what we're going to do is we're going to kind of cross to our curves. We're going to scroll down to our hue versus hue tab. We're going to select the eyedropper tool and pick an area of skin. Now this brings up three little nodes on our hue versus hue line. We're going to come in, select that center node. What I'm going to do is I'm going to hit shift before I click so that I'm only moving the line up and down and not left to right, and I'm going to pull it slightly into the yellow as we have too much red. So let's take a look at our adjustment there. That was pretty much spot on, right onto that skin tone line. From here we want to consider how saturated our skin tones are. Now you're wanting to peak at about 40% of this line value. So right over here we might be sitting on about 20 to 30%. If that's a 50% mark, we might wanting to get up to over here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to again select an eyedropper tool under my hue versus saturation this time. I'm going to pick an area of skin tone and I'm going to saturate that out slightly more to get closer to that, let's say 30 to 40% mark, which is where we want our skin tones to be sitting at. So that to me looks alright at this point in time. We don't want to overdo it. Now the reason that we use these graphs is because they are a scientific representation of the color in the image versus us just eyeballing it and trying to see what looks best. I'm now going to come into my effect controls. I'm going to turn off that opacity mask and I'm going to take a look at my skin tones. Alright, so as we can see, our skin tones are looking far less red. So let's toggle that on and off. This was before our corrections. Skin tones are looking pretty red. We've added some more yellow in and we've got a far more natural looking skin tone. And there you have it. That's all you've got to do in order to color correct your skin tones inside of your editing software. You're wanting to pay attention firstly to the exposure of your image. So you're wanting to make sure that your skin tones, as you can see in the center here, are represented in the center of my exposure graph. They're coming in at just under 70. The bulk of our skin tones wanting to be lying on this skin tone line, and we want the exposure not to be more than 40% right over there, so we're on the money. If you've enjoyed this video, give it a like and consider subscribing to this channel as I'll continue to roll out more content like this. Let me know in the comments below if you have any other tips to getting perfect skin tones. I'll catch you guys in the next one.